Hello, and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And boy, there was this video that Wes, he passed along to me from via VHS, and then I sent it to Ryan the first thing I did after I watched it. And it was just one of those ones where back in the olden days, you know, they used to always have those like alternative ways of both making money / making like other like, I don't know, just other ways to sell the story or whatever of something like that. But it was this like Mario Brothers Ice-capades from like 1989, like home video. Well, not home video. Like it's like almost like the video you would have bought at like the arena. And just the whole idea of this putting together, because you could tell that, like, especially the guy playing King Koopa was one of these ones like, hey, he got kicked off Broadway, he only was in like one show ever, but like, you know, he still feels like he's got to be on top. Here you go, this is how you could be in a starring villain role.
Well, it also seems kind of like, if I remember correctly, he wasn't ice skating. Like, I've been doing this shit for 40 goddamn years, and I gotta wear the stupid fucking crown and wear like green makeup and sing and have kids cheer as I fucking die on screen. Like, I'm not gonna wear fucking ice skates. Fuck that. I'll be on the platform the whole time.
You push me around, you know, get some lackeys in here to push me around on this as I sing my number and so on like that, you know, and. Then to top it off, it's got what's his name's at the very beginning, like, because it's like it starts off like
like Saved by the Bell or some shit.
No, what Bateman? What's his name?
Not Patrick Bateman, but
no, the other guy. Whatever.
Killer.
It's just that one where it's like they're sitting there and he's like showing, he's like almost like showing, like, hey, is Mario Brothers here? You're like, you want to check it out and everything like that? And she's playing, he's like, hey, you're doing it wrong. And like, what's going on here? And then it like transitions in from like literally the 85 game to being the weird ice-capades, like I don't know. It almost feels like literally if you just got like I guess the best way to say it is a good version of a high school like production team to put this together. That's sort of what it felt like. Not a crappy high school one, but like, you know, a high school that actually had a little bit of decent budget and could put stuff together, but not really quality level that should be on a touring show.
Well, not to backtrack too far for a second, but I just want to say the thing is, because like, you don't know what Mario Brothers is? No, I'm a girl. I don't play video games. That has that whole thing going on. And it just has I like how it's just like, let me tell you this thing that was obviously written by like a press agent, you know, just goes down like somebody from marketing sent this monologue for me to say. So you play as Mario and Luigi. You travel through the, you know, just literally you could say just reading something off, and then like you said, it does the transition, and like 90% of it is Koopa just on. Like, I'm wondering if it was like some kind of thing where maybe that was just like part of it, like maybe it was like an anthology thing, like it's hey kids, it's all your favorite cartoon characters. We got a Mario Brothers segment, we got a Strawberry Shortcake segment, what Care Bears, whatever, you know, and then they just I'm wondering if it's that, because that was brought up and solved really quickly.
Well, yeah, like the video is only like 6 minutes long. I was trying to see if I could find who the actor was in there. Of course, it didn't say anything in the. It's weird when people put together YouTube videos and don't even just don't even put a description down, whatever. But it's one of those things where, yeah, it's real short. So I wonder if they did sort of do the combination thing where they put a few things together and that's what it was. I mean, obviously it could have been edited a little bit, but I guess if you're there at the live show, maybe there is more stuff. You know, it's not out of the question for people to sell one of those cheapskate VHSs. It's like all of like 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, for like $20.
It was funny because they would cut to the crowds, and there's like, keep in mind, this is like 80, like somewhere in the late 80s. So like, this is when Mario fans would have only been kids. So, but like, you see all the parents, like, whenever it shows like cuts the crowd, you see the kids all excited. You see that like some kids just look confused, like they don't know what's going on. Then you see a couple of parents just always like, just end me, like Luigi, just turn that RPG or whatever it is you have and just fire it this way.
Just, you know what? I don't think I want to see what the 90s is. If this is 89, I don't think I can handle what comes next.
Well, it's also like, because the thing is, the whole, it's a whole like, you know, Bowser or King Koopa song and dance, and then like Princess Peach is all like, oh my stars, oh good golly, like,
She's like New Jersey as possible. It's like, wow, that's what a princess's voice sounds like. That's all I thought about.
Just like, we gotta bring in the Mario Brothers, and they come down, and then like I understand that, like, okay, it's an ice skating thing, so they can't, maybe if it was like more higher production, they would have done some acrobatic, like jump over him, like, oh, you beat him or whatever. And I understand someone has the possibility of getting like their face sliced off or whatever in that. But at the same time, it's Mario Brothers, so you assume they jump. But instead, what they do is like, Luigi, get out your fucking military hardware. We're going to commit some war crimes.
It literally, like, it was 2 steps away from being like, okay, we got Mario Brothers, so we're going to add in Duck Hunt as well, too. And each time the Goombas and the Spikies and the Koopa Troopas, all that stuff, it's practically just like Mario's behind there, like, pull! And then Luigi's, like, blasting off this, like, giant, like, almost like, it reminds me like the rifle out of, like, Metal Gear Solid, the one that uses the magnets. I feel like it's not that late, but for some reason I have that, like, feeling like it's late, like, the rail gun.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
So it's just like every single time it's like, send out the Goomba, boom, and then there's like this explosion, and it's almost like edited in a way. Like I'm wondering how it looked at, like when you're really there, because it's like there's an explosion, electricity, and all that stuff, and then it's like disappears and so on, which looks like fancy editing on the VHS. But I really want to know what that looked like when you were sitting there in the audience. And then next one's like Koopa's like lined up. Okay, next one, fire Luigi.
Well, I'm because you think it would just be, you don't need the I mean, I'm guessing the little the gun they were using, they probably needed that to mask the effects somehow, because you think it would have just been fireball, just send your hand out and the guy just puffs. But I guess because otherwise, why else would the Mario Brothers be walking around with like a fucking bazooka? I'm just trying to do the math here. And then
the Super Scope's not even been invented yet.
Yeah, so I'm just you sent me this thing, and I'm not gonna lie, it took me a few days before I got around to watching it, and then I watched it. I was like, what the fuck? How am I only now finding out about this goddamn thing?
Well, it's one of those ones, like, you hear about these live shows, and there's some of them that, like, I feel like would have been awesome to see. Like, there was a Mortal Kombat one that came out in, like, give or take 95, 96, and it used a lot of the actual martial arts actors from, like, the game and so on. And so I think even some of the characters from even the movie, like it was a combo of like the both. But that one sounded like that probably would have been badass. You know what I mean? Like they would have had all kinds of cool. It would have been like the Waterworld show at like Universal, but with like, Mortal Kombat. That's what I pictured. But this Mario one's just more like one of those ones where it just feels like, okay, we got an off Broadway cast. Let's put them together and make this show happen.
I just like the idea of like, let's just wrap this shit up. Like, hey, Mario doesn't even do anything. He just kind of lands down and tells Luigi to shoot. Just like, Luigi, it's time to be a man.
Pull the trigger. You gotta pull the trigger like you had to do the Pops. Remember when he got bit by that rabid dog and it was the only way? Mario, don't remind me of that. No, Luigi, always remember. Just like Pop said, he's like, pull the trigger, son. I trust you.
And then when you hesitated, he charged you and you had no choice. He did that to you as a favor. Don't fucking forget it.
And ever since then, you've always been afraid to go down the sewers because you're afraid of the rabid dogs that live down there.
Don't want to scare you, Luigi, but they are still down there.
They're still down there. And that's why we got to go down and stomp every last one of them out. And then I can't really remember what happens to Koopa in that. Like, of course, he just like, whoa,
he got blown up.
Does he get blown up?
He got blown up. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody gets blown up.
Yeah.
Just that classic '80s thing. That, like, you know what? Blow them up. That's what the kids like.
Hands on the hips, laugh. We got to get the kids ready to fight the Soviets.
Yeah. And these kids are like super young. I mean, like it's one of those ones like. They almost feel younger than you would say a video game age is, and I just only say that because they look like they've been almost half of them don't even know where they are.
Yeah,
they got that look like, hey, I'm in a cart getting pushed on ice.
Well, they probably thought they're there to see they're probably there for the My Little Pony segment of it. I'm assuming that's what it was. It was just a bunch of because it was really short. It was only 6 minutes. There's no way, guys. Thanks for coming out. That'll be like 45 each. So.
Yeah, it's bizarre, you know. Yeah, as I said, maybe the Mario Super Show was almost more like the way into it. Not saying that like, you know, a kid under 5 years old can't play video games, but I always just feel like it seems like you got to sort of at least sort of breach about 5 before like video games start to like be recognized a little bit more.
Yeah, I was probably around like 5 or 6 when I first started playing video games, really. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I just saw that and I had to give you my delayed reaction to it.
Well, it's one of those,
That would have been a fun thing to cover if there's more to it. They'll go in depth in that for Mario March, but here we
yeah,
go
if there was like an hour-long program of that, which God, that'd be probably a tough watch, but I would still be very interested.
Everything's doable. Anything's a little watchable after a few drinks. So
Yeah, exactly. It's just you line up your margaritas, and next thing you know, you go like Jimmy Buffett when you just sitting there, just freaking out. But
leave the bottle, take the glass.
yeah. But going in from Mario, we get a brand new Batman movie that literally felt like it had like one of those ones that had like it's Batman, and it's weird that it had like no. I almost want to say they didn't even advertise this because it wasn't even on like the Supergirl movie or whatever the heck else came out. Like I didn't see any trailers for this one because mostly they always have like the, you know, next time on DCU, you know, get your wallets out, you fucking nerds.
I saw like a YouTube like trailer for it like a few months back or something, like around the time the Supergirl or maybe a little before that even. But yeah, I didn't even buy this one. I rented it just because things can be kind of a little more of a hassle over here. I mean, it's here, but you know,
yeah,
just things are a bit more spread out where I live. So, but yeah, because we will be going to spoilers for this thing. We always cover the next DC animated movie because we're usually big fans of it. Overall, before we go into spoilers, what'd you think of it?
I actually liked it quite a bit because it's one of those ones where I knew it was a Batman one. I knew it was an Elseworld story. It's one of those books that I've never read, but I'm very interested to check out the book now. You know, I felt like it almost kind of all came together. It's like I knew that Mike Mignola made a Batman book. I didn't realize that he had like a Batman book with like its very own like Elseworld style and so on. I mean, it's very Batman meets Hellboy without Hellboy being in the book kind of like feel. But I just thought it was cool. It's just like, it's this 1920s Batman era, and you just got these alternative versions of the characters, you know, no different than like Gotham by Gaslight and so on. But I was pretty impressed. What'd you think?
Yeah. So
fucking sucked.
It didn't suck. No, I'm just kind of like, I wish I was that enthusiastic about it. I want to read the book. I do want to read the book. I'm guessing because even Mike Mignola, I think he did Gotham by Gaslight. I think that was his first one he did. And he's even done like a couple other, like, because I have like his,
did he
like,
do Gotham by Gaslight? I didn't think he did that one. I thought, because that book's like way old.
He wrote it at least. I think he at least wrote it. I
Really?
might
Okay.
be wrong on that.
I didn't think he was making comic books in like the 80s. I thought for some reason he started in like the 90s, but I could be wrong.
I have to double check that. I think he did Gotham by Gaslight. And he also did like a couple like short, like single issues of other Batman stuff and, you know, things in that kind of Hellboy style. And I like the concepts. I want to read the book. And it's not that I even disliked it or hated it. I just felt kind of so like there were good ideas and it was a really cool setting. And I was looking forward to seeing what this thing was doing, what it was going to do with the characters. But it just felt so kind of like, well, if somebody was going to be like resurrecting a demon, who would it be? I guess it could be Ra's al Ghul, and I guess Talia would be there too, kind of. If there was somebody who was like, it just seemed kind of like they were placing people in, like characters into just a slot and not really doing a whole lot with the character beyond the, I guess this would be that, you know, like, okay, who's a character we can do some cool body horror stuff with, some Cthulhu, Lovecraftian body horror stuff. What about Two-Face? Oh, that's a cool way for him to actually get his stuff. It was like some kind of like Lovecraftian like body horror. But then it just like, well, we do that, but they don't do anything with his character.
He's just sitting there like a door, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, my arm's all infected on this side, so walk on in."
It was, well, he even had a faint joke where, I mean, you know, it wasn't like it was all bad, but even said like poison ivy. They said, the doc said it's poison ivy. They want to get a second opinion, you know. So a small little thing like that. But the other thing is like, okay, you have a character whose whole thing is duality, and his whole thing is like juggling two personalities. And what they and a whole thing with like a lot of Lovecraftian monsters and creatures and mental parasites or whatever is they make you struggle with like insanity and insanity. So it's like, I don't know. It just seemed it was right fucking there. I don't know,
Yeah, well, they do have a lot of characters in it, which, I mean, I like that there actually is a bunch of stuff in there, but they definitely, things are a little bit quicker to each character and so on. I mean, even like the beginning, it starts off and like penguins up and like the fucking Antarctic just running around naked with literally penguins, just like, ass cheeks full exposed.
Yeah, well, that didn't bother me because that's kind of like
I thought that was hilarious. It's just like there's like part where he's standing up on the mountain, is just his ass is just standing there. And he's looking down at like Batman and like Dick and whatnot. Just beating off real hard of the penguins.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, I mean, like, I didn't mind him being naked. I mean that. Well, I just thought it was funny because if there's one character you're not expecting to see naked or something like that,
Yeah, exactly.
Just like they show him like the cop and the banshees of Inisherin or whatever, just like laying the fucking hat. Just like, Jesus, I wasn't expecting that. It was like a fucking jump scare.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing with like with the whole penguin part, I understand not every character is going to get the spotlight, especially in an Elseworlds thing. It's like, there's the character, let's move on. I get that. I just think of the characters they did give time to and they did focus on. They didn't really focus on them or give them a whole lot to do. They were just kind of there more to just serve a purpose and kind of move on. Like, it's a 1920s version of the character. Isn't that kind of cool? And then we're not really going to focus on it. We're just going to keep going. And I guess for being like a story that was all about like, for being something that was very H.P. Lovecraft inspired, it just didn't really lean as much into horror as I thought it would. I know a lot of times that stuff is slow burn, but I felt like it just kind of, it didn't really, there wasn't a whole lot of it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think like the horror element was there as much. And plus, I'm surprised for if you're doing like a Lovecraftian thing, you didn't go R.
Well, that was what I was just going to say is, do you think that if it was rated R, it would have been a little bit more on the, and it's not out of the question of a Batman rated R. We've had, about 5 of them by this point, give or take a Justice League maybe style one, but, so it's not out of the question. It is kind of strange this one isn't, just to kind of add a little bit more gruesomeness to it and so on like that, because you have stuff that like is already leaning.
High body count. A lot of people die.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it has people that die that like if it was a regular Batman one, you'd be like, what the fuck? But like I feel like in a Elseworlds one, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's like Dick Grayson like dies like literally like almost feels like a third into the movie, and you're like, holy shit, there goes old Dick.
Who's supposed to be Jason Todd dies, like, is the first to go before even you're expecting something like, well, they're going to put on a suit first. Like, nope, they don't. There's just his boys and his girl he collected,
I love that there's that part where Oliver Queen's like, yeah, Bruce just sort of goes from port to port and collects children.
Just runs around with a potato sack.
Yeah, just taking people from all over the world like that, because that's also what it is. Like Batman's almost doing. It's got like, felt like he just got like kids from around the world. Just like, I'm just gonna add them to my collection, like Pokemon, but I collect children.
Just the idea of just like, well, plus like the idea, he's like, okay, I got an Asian girl. I got a white guy. Okay, I'm white, but I got a white kid. Okay, cool. Then like, okay, I got a Middle Eastern kid. Now let's see. We're going to we're gonna stop by Gotham. Then we're going to South America. Okay, Gotham's only the pit stop.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, Batman's been out like driving this boat around for like 20 years apparently, and it's just like that's how he was doing his training. Like you just like show up to port, do some kung fu training, learn some like science and shit, and then capture a child and leave.
Well, I said the concept of just like, well, can't leave the continent without a souvenir. So
yeah, just whips out this bag. Who am I gonna take? Oh, okay, here we go. Bloop.
You look unwanted. No, but it's also one of those things of where the idea of him traveling, because this does have, and I don't know how much of it is based on the comic, or because I imagine, in all honesty, like, because I don't know when the Doom that came to Gotham. I don't know when that book came out, but
I think it came out in 2000. Like, it's actually quite older than like.
Okay.
I thought it was a more modern book, but it's like so. That's something I will say. Going back to like when you were saying like some of these characters kind of almost seem a little bit more cliche. Probably in 2000s, it would have seemed a little bit more like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, I could see kind of 25 years later almost that it seems like okay, we've seen stuff before.
Oh, you got all pixelated there for a second. Hopefully I'm not talking over. I'll give you a second.
Okay, well, I just said the book came out in 2000. You know, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Okay, so it came out then, and I feel that it definitely would have felt probably a little bit more fresh with like just like the kind of, you know, the characters and just throwing them into like the position that they are back then. You know,
I'd be willing to bet though that they've changed things for the movie. Like they've already changed other stuff for the movies that came out, and the idea that like, because I guess my thing is, it's like I didn't hate it, I even didn't dislike it. I was just kind of like, every so often you'll see something like one of these animated movies, and you kind of hope you're really gonna like it, and if you don't really like it, you hope like, well, at least it was interesting, at least it was different. It was kind of interesting, it was kind of different, but I guess I've seen so much Elseworld Batman by this point. And it was a cool setting and everything, but I've already read a little bit of like Mike Mignola's stuff that incorporated, you know, Elseworld Batman in this kind of setting. And it was just like, I don't think it really utilized it very much. And the thing is, maybe she was around by then, but the girl was, they changed the names. You could tell there's enough similarities of who they're supposed to be. The girl is supposed to be Cassandra Cain. The first kid that dies is supposed to be Jason Todd.
yeah.
So maybe Jason Todd and Dick Grayson were in it, but I would honestly assume Cassandra Cain, because she would have been like brand new around like 2000 if she was even around then. At least I assume she would have been. So who knows? It's one of those things that, like, I just think there's always like, I don't know. It just felt kind of like Elseworld, not by the numbers Batman wise, but Elseworld by the numbers. Like, just put the character there in this weird coat of paint and we'll call it good, as opposed to, well, how will this character technically function or react? Like the idea of Two-Face becoming Two-Face via like, you know, body horror, not through ass in the face, but through like, you know, black magic and shit like that. That's cool. But they don't really do anything with his character. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just the portal. Walk right in.
Yeah, walk up. Well, I think, I mean, granted, like I like that there is a lot of characters in it, but sometimes that is kind of sometimes the downfall to having too many characters is that, you know, people are just going to kind of be there for a moment and that's it. Like, you know, Killer Croc's in it for like a moment, you know, and he's kind of an interesting one. It's just a quick Batman fight and then, you know, move on and so on. So you do have that, which I felt like Killer Croc almost as a character. If you wanted to have some kind of like Cthulhu looking kind of monster, he could almost be infused with that even more than any of the other ones.
Yeah, well, because they almost use this. I don't know if they ever call him Cthulhu, but this Cthulhu-like entity, they basically use that as a way that everyone becomes some variation. Like, I'm not sure if the guy they capture at first, because it's not the same name. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be Mr. Freeze or even maybe the Icicle. I don't know. I got kind of Mr. Freeze vibes just because how bulky the suit is, and he has the whole ice motif thing. But he hardly did any. Like he froze like Jason Todd off screen. He just killed him, but we never actually saw him do a whole lot of other like fighting or other work or anything. You know, so it's just kind of like, well, I mean, he was the messenger or he was the key or whatever, something to that effect. But we never really saw him past that.
Yeah, no, yeah, because that's what I was assuming of some of these characters, because that's kind of how some of them are. It's kind of like the Kaylee Kane or whatever, the Cassandra Cain kind of thing. I wonder, I wonder if that is in the book that's that character. So I'm like, I've never, like, other than I know Cassandra Cain, but I've never seen that variation of it. And I was like, that was actually kind of a cool. I would like to see more of that girl, like, in stuff. You know, I was almost kind of hoping she would even get like a suit or something as this one went on, but it was more like, no, Batman just has like. He's got wards, but, you know, and they help out, but they're not allowed to put the suit on. It's 1920s.
Bruce! She's like, oh, Bruce, almost to him. Like, oh, Jesus. No, we're good. Why do we teach her English? Why do we teach her English and fucking, and like from a why should have a cognitive English teacher? Shit, we should have. Well, Alfred, why didn't you teach her?
Oh, I was busy dusting, Mr. Wayne. Yeah. That's what you always say. You're always busy dusting something.
Oh, you be dusted, Alfred. Like, oh, yeah, I'm dust. His ears are bleeding.
Like, well, it's like, let's be honest. Who was the one that sent that like Cockney teacher to Hong Kong? Like, now we just have a whole school of children that talk like that. But no, I thought that character was kind of cool. You know, there was I think there still was a bunch of neat stuff. That, like,
Oliver Queen. I like to.
I was gonna say that was what I was gonna get to. Is I thought that the Green Arrow was really awesome in this one. Like, I just like how they kept him where, like, okay, he's the alcoholic guy, but he's now older and he still is an alcoholic. It's like he never gave that up, but he still goes out and does like kind of shit. Or his thing is like, I go out and I kill animals for training. That's what I do, and then I get hammered and wasted afterwards.
Well, it was kind of like, what was something I liked about his character is it was this thing where he was like, he seemed kind of just like the lush, the alcoholic friend, you know, and like, okay, he's the playboy who had his time. Now he's just kind of like depressed. And you find out that like, oh, he's not drinking because he's like some entitled prick who just hangs about all the time. He is like ridden with guilt. He is like he just hates himself on every level, and this is the only way he copes. And then the whole thing, like, I even thought that was kind of interesting how they brought in like the blood ritual with all the other members of Gotham that came together and all that. And his father was in on that. Bruce's father was in on that. Cobblepot, you know, that was all interesting to me. I thought that was cool. I think the expansion like that. I thought, yeah.
When like it shows like when like there's a flashback to like Thomas Wayne is like, we're back in the Pilgrim days when like we came on over, you know,
between burning witches.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we sailed on over, killed a bunch of Indians, and set up a fort, which became Gotham. You know, which I remember the first time I was going like, wait a second, like they're all 400 years old. That was like Cobblepot and Thomas Wayne and you know Oliver Queen's dad and all this stuff. And who else was there? It was,
I think, Langstrom. They say it was.
Oh, yeah, Kirk Langstrom. That was the other guy. You know, he was there too. And for some reason, it's like they got there and they're like, shit. You know, guess what was buried underneath our Gotham fort? You know, oh, there's this weird book. Well, you know, shit. You got nothing better to do when you're in the New World. Let's open it up and play some fucking D&D with this shit.
We already killed all the locals. What else are we gonna do?
Yeah. Too bad we didn't keep a translator. Yeah, whatever. Oh, next thing oh, Jesus, why did we bring that one?
And then I thought that was interesting how they kind of incorporated because the second I heard Kurt Langstrom, I'm like, oh, okay, so like body horror man bat. But then I thought the twist where no, Bruce becomes Man-Bat in order to defeat. Like, I think that's interesting because a big thing about a lot of cosmic horror is always like the hero is doomed. The hero is doomed. There's no way around it a lot of the time. Or he walks away just forever changed, but not like in a heroic, triumphant way, but like in a like, I'm gonna go fucking crazy. I just saw the edge of the universe, you know. So the idea of like he saved the day, he did what he was supposed to do, but at a cost, he became a bat, a literal bat, and I thought that was kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool too. It's like that's the thing. It's like it's almost like Batman goes so far to like he literally becomes full on the Batman, you know. And I thought that was an interesting way, especially when he goes to fight Ra's al Ghul at the end. You know, there and Ra's al Ghul kind of transforms because Ra's al Ghul does say Cthulhu at one point. He mentions off a bunch of like those other kind of old school like
words. He does,
but he does say Cthulhu at one point, and when they have sort of their final battle and whatnot, so yeah, he's there, and of course who else would be raising that book once again? Of course, it'd be Ra's al Ghul and Talia.
I'll say something I do appreciate about this is I really appreciate the what's the word I'm looking for? The self-control they showed by not putting the Joker in here.
Yeah, I will say I give it kind of credit there because it is using kind of like almost like still like your A-list like characters, but it is kind of nice that the Joker actually isn't in that story. That's just one of those ones. Like I think maybe that was even like some of the stuff. And like I'm glad Harley Quinn's not in it too. Just to feels like she gets kind of shoehorned into everything nowadays. So it is nice that it kind of gave some of these other characters that seem kind of. I feel like the Joker sometimes, like if you're going to have a really old school like Batman, like in the 20s and back and so on like that, I feel like the Joker almost doesn't fit as much into that kind of era as like some of these other characters. I feel kind of can work kind of better in this one.
Unless you're doing kind of like a Jack. I mean, I know they already did with Jack the Ripper, but I mean, I guess that you'd see that coming from a mile away, really. But I mean, I don't know. I guess here's ultimately my thing with this particular setting. If you're gonna go like 1920s. Or like, was it 1920s or like 1915 or was it something like
that? No,
I
think it's literally the 20s because it's like Prohibition era and so on. Because that was the thing about Oliver Queen is he's literally like smuggling in alcohol to Gotham and so on. And, Jim Gordon's like, he's got his bowler cap on. He's like, one of these days we'll get you, Oliver Queen.
By my stars, I promise you we will. And then like, if you're going to do something like, in the 20s, 20s like Batman, Gotham City, and it's going to be like focused around cosmic horror. I think you do one of two things. You either go ultra like hard and gritty, like extra like hard and gritty, like realistic, or you go lean so much into the crazy supernatural shit. I think you go one of two ways with that, and I feel like this movie kind of goes down the middle. Like it's kind of like, because I guess I've seen so much animated Batman, and aesthetically it's not like a bad looking movie or anything. Like it's well animated and all that, but it just doesn't really pop like other things have that Batman's been in. And all the real crazy shit doesn't really happen until like the last third of it, which I know it's meant to be kind of a slow burn build up, which a lot of Lovecraftian cosmic horror stories are. But at the same time, I don't know. I just feel like I've seen it a lot by now.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Is I do kind of wonder that if you would have picked this book up, like, yeah, like literally in like the first days of starting to go out and collect, Batman graphic novels, would it seem more impressive, like in high school almost in a sense,
Maybe, because I do like the idea of like, because usually, I think the Call of Cthulhu, I might be wrong, because I'm not. I get some. I read I had a collection, like an anthology of H.P. Lovecraft stories some time ago, and I'll be honest, when I think back on some of them, some kind of run together. I don't remember which one is which. It always comes down to some dark entity trying to come in over here and fuck with things. And I want to say it's always like a private eye or always a detective or always a reporter that's looking for something. And the people that know about the thing have gone crazy. And here's the writings on the wall. Here's the markings. That's probably a good way to get in Riddler or someone like him who's always seeking knowledge and all that. And then, and I just think there's a lot of things. Like there's a lot of interesting, like there's the what little like detective aspects they show of Batman in this was cool. Like when he goes to Kirk Langstrom's his office, and they show his weird like early version of tech that shouldn't be there, but they kind of give it purpose. Like how he has to kind of like to work like a UV light. He almost has to like get a lighter like device out, flick it, and then like shake it up, and then it suddenly works. You can see footprints. Like it doesn't really make sense, but in this context, it's kind of cool,
Mm-hmm. No, I think yeah, like Batman's gadgets are really cool, just the old school way they are. I like his costume a lot in this one too, where he's got like the tall collar and everything to go along with it. Like that looks pretty darn neat. Batman's also like. He's also got that thing where Batman doesn't care about killing in this one. Like he's like, well, they're not real people. Let's be honest, they're monsters.
Another reason why I think if you got Batman who kills, he's like, they're not Christians. It's okay, So it's like,
just like old Poppy Thomas Wayne would have said, when you sail on over, only you and your crew are the only real people. When you get there, it's They're like cardboard cutouts at the circus, Bruce.
Yeah, they're NPCs. Don't worry about it. You know.
Yeah, they're just programmed to like throw spears at us. Don't worry, my dad, he's 400 years old. He can say shit like that.
He's from a different time, literally.
Yeah, that was being progressive then.
His granddad. Whoa.
Oh God! Don't talk to old Pappy, Wayne.
No, it's one of those things where like I even like the whole part where like I thought it was actually interesting. Like I give a credit for having the balls to kill off the Robins as early as they do, because the whole time I was thinking like, well, they're gonna get suits at some point. They're gonna do their Robin thing. But I just thought it was interesting how like no, the boys die. The boys don't make it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, well, it's even good because there's that part where like Dick Grayson goes in with the revolver or like the rifle. I'm like, well, that's actually kind of cool to see Dick Grayson carrying a Winchester going in there, because you just don't see like the characters ever doing that. So there's that weird thing with like the Bat family. It's like, oh, all you have to do something radical is put a gun in one of their hands, and it changes a lot of the context.
Well, it's also interesting because it's like, it's also, oh, this must be the 20s. You know, like, hey, there's icicles out there in the harbor. That's weird. And all of a sudden they roll up, like Dick's coming out with a gun. Like the cop's like, whoa, slow down there, Sonny. What you doing with that gun there? Come on now. You know it's illegal to carry guns in front of officers. Come on, you silly boys.
You know it's not hunting season in Gotham yet.
Oh, he's on the new motorized boat. There he goes. All right, come on, guys. Gotta paddle after him.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotham's finest. Here we go. I don't know why he's Canadian. I'm assuming they're close to Toronto. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. But well, it's that way. Well, that Canadian accent almost stems from the Irish accent, so I guess it could kind of make sense for Gordon in the 20s.
Cap. I just get a bullet cap and just
But yeah, they just send like he goes out there like, oh, I got past us again.
One of these days we'll get him. Just chasing after like 8 guys, single file, chasing after him, like holding billy clubs, same position.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then even speaking of Jim Gordon, they also have Barbara Gordon in there too, who first she's just like this annoying like prank phone call, like, because like only like 15 people at Gotham probably have phones at this point, and so she's always calling Alfred's house, looking for Bruce, and Alfred's just like, oh, just trying to get this dusting done, and this woman keeps calling every single time.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting when they bring in because obviously it's hard to be a hacker. So back in the 20s, she's like just switching wires. Like, I'm getting into the system, just like,
well, I guess because they give her like she's the most old school phone freak is what she is instead, because that's like the proto hacker as a phone freak.
And then oh, fucking dial up, but then the thing they do to around that is, oh, well, I mean, I guess this is the replacement. She's all into spiritualism, and she's all into like getting like experimental and going into the mind and all that kind of stuff. So I just thought that was an interesting replacement. Like, I liked the scene between Bruce and Barbara.
Yeah. Well, and then Jim put her like in Arkham Asylum, like, oh,
like this bitch.
She broke her back. I don't know what to do with her. It's the 20s. And she's getting weird. She's hooking up wires in the house and trying to make prank phone calls. I don't know what's going on. I don't get these kids these days.
She first off, she broke her back. Then she's with this woman's suffrage thing. Like, that's enough. To the asylum.
Yeah, just like that was the thing, is like they never really explained why she was in Arkham Asylum, except for the fact that you're seeing like a woman, in a wheelchair. You're just putting the pieces together. It's the 1920s.
She talks back, getting all mouthy and whatnot.
She's using like new technology.
This bitch is into some witchcraft. We can't burn him no more. Let's just put her in the box with the steel bars. Sure, give her the phone. She doesn't call us. She only calls Alfred. It's fine.
Yeah, he's got to deal with her.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's one of those things like as we talk about it, as we do with these things, I kind of like a little more the more I think about it. But it was just like, I guess I just see all the opportunity of things that could have happened. Not like I went in with a preconception, like go down my checklist that I just came up with in my head. But I just think of all the things that when you say like cosmic horror Batman, there are just so many things that come to mind. Things that even kind of come into more somewhat recent books. That, I mean, I know this is like you said, this is a book from 2000 or so. So, but at the exact same time, I don't know. I've seen Mike Mignola, some of his Hellboy shit, so I know how crazy he can get.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those ones I'm looking at too. It's only 3 issues long, so this movie probably might cover like the majority of it. Like I'm kind of almost at first I was thinking it was going to be like a thick graphic novel, but I'm like at that length, that's going to be probably like the length of Batman Gotham by Gaslight, which is kind of a short. It was like a 100-page book or something like that, if that even. It might be like one of those. So this one actually could almost even be the extended cut of it by that standard.
It could be. I don't know. Sometimes it's also one of those things of like something could just like the artwork in itself can look way different and just change your vibe of it, Well, yeah, I'm looking at right here. The Two-Face thing is how it happened in there. I mean, maybe in 2000 this book would have been like mind blowing and seeing it like that, but because I actually am seeing a lot of similarities just flipping through this. But the artwork, I will say, looks a lot more of like what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess kind of grittier and rougher and kind of invokes a different kind of tone into me, in all honesty. At the same time, though, like, yeah, I guess there are just some things about the movie that just seemed a little too simple. Like, I'm looking at this. It looks like it is Jason Todd and Dick Grayson in the scene. So maybe they are there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those ones because I mean, it is that thing that there is a lot of stuff, especially like about the last like 10 years plus, that really like utilizes like the Lovecraft thing. Like it's almost like, kind of generally when you do that nowadays, it almost just feels like, oh, join the club, I guess. You know, there's so many when it comes down to video games and like comics and so on like that. But I do think that, yeah, if you would have picked this book up in 2000s, the idea of combining that stuff was just not nearly as common.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like, we need more Lovecraftian shit. Like, no, I get it. Yeah, fucking, we're all gonna die, tentacles, fucking, like somebody gets deformed. I fucking get it, Don't get me wrong, there is like cool Lovecraftian stuff, but at the exact same time, it's one of those things I think we see so much of it, and I guess I was hoping to see this movie really kind of emphasize, and maybe when the book it's based on, maybe at the time that was very radically different. But right now I feel like I've seen it so much that they could have probably expanded on or amplified some stuff, because when I flip through, when I'm looking through some of these images here, I don't really get like a PG-13 tone from the book, just from looking at a couple of screenshots here. But
well, yeah, because this one definitely has like the movie almost feels like it can fit in with like the animated series, like almost like, yeah, Batman's got a what if tale. I mean, like, it's more than a PG. It's definitely PG-13, but like that's sort of like it feels like it's in that kind of stuff. I mean, because like the animation, I do like the animation, so like that. I mean, it's definitely sticking to like not as much of a stylistic choice, more of like a classic Batman kind of like things that fits in with other ones, but
it just popped into my head, but there's the one guy, there's the old man who like had a lizard go into his brain and became all like buff and then got all like on fire. It just crossed my mind. Do you think it's supposed to be like the Phosphorus Man or something like that? Or do you think it's just a random demon?
No, I think that actually was supposed to be somebody, because I totally spaced out about that. Well, because there's a couple of characters too. There's Etriol's also in it too.
Etrigan's in it. Yeah.
Or Etrigan, I mean, yeah. And because he even comes by at first. That part's hilarious because he like shows up. He's like, hey, it's like Alfred's like, there's this guy who wants to come talk to you. Oh, okay, whatever. Send him on up, Alfred. And they're just kind of talking. And then Batman's like, you busted my house, slams him down the table and whatnot like that. Like, let me tell you who the bad is. I've been gone for 20 years. You don't just tell me what to do. Batman tells you what to do. And then when he transforms, he's like, what the fuck? Like, dude, you burned up my table and everything like that. And he's like, I'll see you again later. He like turns around. He's like naked and then just jumps through the window like an ass. But at the same time, he also was slammed on the table. So he's like, fuck you. Fix that window.
And then I like how just he walks out like Alfred's like, Dude, what the fuck happened? You set fire. I cleaned that shit up. Just keeps walking. Doesn't even take the time to say, hey, a demon was just in the house. He just says, like, fucking clean up the redwood table that just burnt down. Then get back to Dustin.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I just feel like it needed a cutaway shot later on where like Alfred's up on a ladder, like fixing the window.
The fuck is he doing? You know, like it's the middle of like a big action scene or something. Just
He sits up there, he's like putting boards across it and so on like that. Like, you know.
Fucking asshole. He's home for 15 fucking minutes. He's always fucking up this house.
You know, it was much nicer when he was gone for 20 years.
You know why the house is still here? He was fucking gone. God, the very reason I told him we should take a cruise to get him out of the house, because I know he's going to fuck it up. Think, all right, 20 years out of his system, let's come back home. Sure enough, just sets a fucking fire to the goddamn rosewood table.
20 minutes into him coming home, somebody already tells him right off the bat that, you know, for Gotham to be saved, it has to be burned to the ground first, and he took that to heart.
Let's get started now. No, Bruce, don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, another kind of cool thing too is I like that later on with Oliver Queen when he almost is in like the knight armor and everything like that, which gave me kind of like what's his name, Azrael kind of like vibe, almost if you combined him with like Green Arrow, and how he just had the only thing was that they set him up like he's like, oh man, he's gonna have these cool like fight scene and so on like that, and then it's like it's a real like quick cut, like, oh, here goes Poison Ivy and everything like that, and then like it's like, okay, well, you know, I had to sacrifice myself, she got me, but I got her. Told you I fucking kill plants too. Like, you know, but then it's like, was like, hey, here's these arrows. I've been saving them for my entire life. Decided not to use them here. Kid, take them.
Well, it's also something to the effect of, I mean, I do think it's kind of interesting, like in a, maybe like a middle ground of this, but the idea that like he was never as good as Bruce and he was training and like for this one particular day, and this was the day, and he kind of figured he was going to die, and as long as he got this one fight, that meant something. There's something about that that's kind of interesting to me. Not if that was the first or only incarnation we got of Oliver Queen, but like the idea that this version of him was just like, yeah, he was training off on the side or whatever, but he wasn't like an active vigilante like Batman. And this was like, it's kind of like, this is going to seem like a weird comparison, but not the movie version, but the comic version of the fight between Batman and Superman in Dark Knight Returns, because that's almost the way in both Batman v Superman and the animated movie, it's this big like slobber knock, like we're fucking going at it. But in the book, it's down to the point of like, I'm right here. He's gonna come at me like this and try to talk to me. I'm gonna pull this on him. Thusly, he's gonna come at me. But then once he pins me down, I got like 5 seconds to get these 3 shots in on him. And if I get those 3 shots in on him, I win. There's a good possibility I'm going to die, but I at least win. And that was kind of what this was to a certain extent, but not as well planned. That's what I found kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that part still is really cool. Like I said, I think all the stuff from the Green Arrow character and all the way he is in this, I feel like that's almost like almost the coolest part of it. I just think that's just a very unique and interesting way to go with him and so on like that. And even that part. Crusader. Yeah. I just thought that was a cool look. It was just like, oh, that's kind of a cool look. You know, I'd like to see more of that. You know, and I like even because it's the part where he's like, oh, he's like, you know, he has that moment of Bruce being like, you know, I've been having all this guilt this whole time, like, you know, my dad did meth and came and killed your dad. You know, he's like sins of the father. So and Bruce is like, yo, fucking kids, like our parents are 400 fucking years old. They're crazy people. Like, let's be honest. Like, there's nothing normal about any of our families. Gotham's terrible. We need to burn it down so that like we could like fix this shit.
They fist bump, then he dies.
Yeah. Because it is like that one, like it never really. I did explain exactly why, like, you know, Oliver's dad was just all like methed out and just going crazy. I mean, obviously just because of the book or something like that. I know it had something to do there, but was he just the first one to get infected or something?
I think it was like they all went crazy in their own way, but he was ridden, because I think he was just like he was ridden crazy with guilt. and he decided he was going to take the life of Bruce Wayne because I don't know, maybe he was the first one. He's the easiest one. Like, he likes to walk down abandoned alleys. This will be easy enough. I'm going to go after him before I go after like Oswald and fight him naked with his mutated penguins out in the fucking Antarctica. That's the last one. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Bill. That's not Orin Inishi. Okay.
Because this is sort of like a bottle story, I feel like it's okay that everything kind of has that like cul-de-sac feel where everything happens. It makes Gotham feel like Gotham's made up of like 15 people, but
yeah,
because that's the only thing is like whenever they do that where like everything's like interconnected, it makes it feel like it's so small, like it happened in like the tiniest neighborhood, But in this one, I think it's kind of fun to have all that stuff because once again, it's a short story and just more of an interesting what if kind of thing, but yeah, I was kind of wondering because at first it's like, oh yeah, that's my dad. He's just, he gets crazy out on those benders, and next thing you know, he's killing people.
He's killing friends and associates, but he's rich, so he can get away with it. It was how he was brought up.
Yeah, that's how he acted in the 1400s. So nothing's changed.
So many notches he has on his belt. Yeah.
Yeah, But yeah, I mean, like overall, I think there is some cool stuff to take away from the movie. I think it's kind of a neat one. It is something different. Like I will say, like it doesn't feel like it's kind of one of those ones that, unless they just did a poll where they're like, people are just really into H.P. Lovecraft, which maybe they are because I kid you not, there was literally a sale on Steam like a week ago that was like the H.P. Lovecraft inspired games, selection, like right as this movie came out. So, maybe like. That's just really in style, and they're like, you know what, we need to ride this wave before it goes out of popularity.
I feel like, I mean, I can only think of like a couple of examples off the top of my head, but I feel like even if it's not specifically H.P. Lovecraft, I feel like there is like we're kind of getting because H.P. Lovecraft inspired stuff can kind of go one of two directions. It can go like full on like B horror, or it can go on like classy psychological kind of art house horror. And I think that now people are kind of I think we're kind of going on more the latter recently because I've been seeing kind of a lot of like I can't think of a whole lot off the top of my head right now, but I feel like a lot of horror stuff recently hasn't been the big jump scary monster stuff. It's more been a lot of slow burn psychological shit, which is in a lot of like Lovecraft stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of going back to even like just like 70s style, but so maybe that's
24 stuff recently like that.
Yeah, because I mean, and I'm thinking that's just probably why because as I said, this Batman movie just felt like it was kind of like, I think that's what made me kind of more interested, I guess, when it kind of came. I was like, oh, it's just something different. Like I wouldn't expect would be the next Batman movie you'd throw out there, and so I think just that in itself's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I'm also, I mean, not to be a dick, I'm always looking forward to the future of like DC and all that, but they've kind of covered majority of the big graphic novels. I mean, they're kind of by this, I guess the only big ones they have left, like the big ones, like Kingdom Come.
Yep. Traveling Heroes, I don't think they're ever going to make that one.
No, I mean, it's back there, but I mean, at the same time, it's like
I feel like DC stopped giving out those surveys because they're probably like, there's some asshole that always asks for Traveling Heroes every single time we give that out. Just stop sending them out.
I think Traveling Heroes is something they'll make a reference to or allude to. I don't think it's something they're going to full on do. Because I feel like when they think about like a story, I don't think they go further back than like the 80s. I think that's probably like a lot of their classic. I mean, they're going around. There's big stories that came out like Infinity, like Earth, like Infinity Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever, and then
but I think that's still 82. I want to say or something.
Yeah, that's still 82.
Well, generally, it's that weird notion that there's a lot of people that almost kind of go like, nothing happens, before Dark Knight Returns. Like it's almost like Dark Knight Returns is almost like the new era, and from that point forward, everything else is kind of game. Everything before Dark Knight Returns is kind of like almost like generally too old for the average person.
I guess. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, they as far as like well-known characters, because they've done a few Green Lantern movies, but that's always feel like it was leading up to like the movie or something else. I feel like the only ones that really the only like books that are really left is like Kingdom Come, um, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, but he's not big enough really for the common person. When you say Swamp Thing to a common person, they'll go like Creature Black Lagoon or some shit. Like, well, kind of, but no, you know. So I feel like I don't even know that's DC oriented. So
I feel like you'd have to do, if you did one of those, you'd have to do like a Swamp Thing and like Constantine, or a Swamp Thing and it would have to be an and movie. Like I don't know if like they'd be able to just to go. I would love to say that they could just go, yeah, just do the Swamp Thing movie. Why not? Like let's just do a roll of the dice.
I mean, I guess you could do Swamp Thing and Batman, because there's that whole story about how like this Swamp Thing took over Gotham City because a cop was like, "Hey, that's that Abby girl, right? Yeah, she's fucking a plant. Throw her in jail," you know. And then, like,
put her in with Barbara Gordon. we can't have these free thinking women just running around town.
One's like talking about like women's rights and like, you know, playing with technology. The other's fucking a plant. What's next? You know,
throw that little Hong Kong girl that Bruce brought too. I just have a bad feeling about her.
Why, Ted? Why? Explain. No, I don't want to explain. Fuck you. I don't have to explain to you.
It's gut reaction. It's the 20s. I can have that. That's all you need in a court case.
True. Dismissed. I guess you could do like a Batman and Swamp Thing. Don't get me wrong. I want Swamp Thing to be actually what I think would be more interesting, just because it's more like polar opposite. Because Batman, oh, I'm sad all the time. Swamp Thing, oh, I'm sad all the time. Like Swamp Thing and like Superman would be interesting, just because it is like, hey, why are you so down? You know,
or like Swamp Thing and like Barry Allen Flash.
Yeah, like that like a weird team up like that, like just like polar opposites.
You know, I'm kind of surprised. Maybe this I can't tell you what the next DCU thing coming out is, but I'm kind of surprised.
Justice League thing.
Oh, was another Justice League one? But I'm almost surprised there's not a straight up like Flash movie, because it feels like because there's a Flash movie coming out live action that you could almost just have a straight Flash movie, not a Justice League Flash movie, but like just a pure Flash and the Gang movie where it's just Flash and Captain Cold and Captain Boomerang, you know, and just all his kind of rogue things. I'm just kind of surprised there's not one of those.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. I feel like they're long overdue for like, because even like they call like Flashpoint, even though it's a Flash movie, it's called Justice League. That's going to sell. There's Throne of Atlantis, which they call Justice League because they know it's going to sell better than Aquaman. The next two they have. The second one I'm more excited for, but this one, Justice League War World. So, you know, I guess they're going to War World and they got to fight in Mongols tournament, which that could be cool. That could be interesting. But then one that actually, it's like a untitled milestone media film. So that one I'm really interested because that's like, you know, Static, Icon, Hardware.
Oh, that might be kind of cool then.
Yeah. So, because I think Static Shock is long overdue for, well, I mean,
yes,
I think he's long overdue for like a theatrical movie, but by these standards, also for one of these animated DVD movies as well.
Yeah, because that's a character that's always such a cool character that just, you know, he's got a couple things. I mean, of course, he had his own show at one point, but beyond that, like, he like never even appears in any of these. I don't think he's in any of those DCU ones. He's like a background character in one of them. I'm trying to think.
He's a character, and like, so here's the thing. I was really liking Young Justice when it came out. Mm-hmm. And then season 2 came out, felt a little bit more cluttered, but I still liked it. Season 3 was okay, felt even more cluttered. I kind of stopped watching season 4 because it's like there's so many fucking characters at once, and it's just kind of like, just take a few and focus on a couple of them at a time. And it's like, oh, it's so cool. They're throwing this character in there, they're throwing that character in there, and they're throwing like Static in there. But he's just like one character in the background with a couple of lines, you know? So it's just like, maybe there's an episode where it really focuses on him, but it's doing that thing where it's like trying to like do the whole like the drama of being a superhero and like all the interpersonal things with it, which is good. But when you have like 45 characters all going through that in their own way. It's like, okay, how about we just focus on 5 of them like you used to? But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Static Shock, he I think that like he's long overdue for that, and I'd like to see more of him. And I was surprised he wasn't on the roster when they were talking about movies out of the gate for DC, for the future of DC film.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, just some of the choices and so on. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what these next ones are. As I said, I'm still so kind of surprised that there's just not a Flash one to go along with the Flash movie. But because yeah, that's the thing, is like there's very few characters that actually have like straight up just like, you know, this is just their movie. Beyond Batman, Superman, you know, it's like, you know, Wonder Woman and Green Lantern are like the only others that I think kind of got that shot. Technically Constantine too, which just always seems weird that like when you go, oh yeah, I guess who else got one? Constantine, Flash just standing in the corner like, fuck, you know,
Vixen.
Like, yeah, Vixen gets one too. Yeah,
Flash and Arrow back there, the arms crossed, like we're here too.
Yeah. Well, then there's that weird. There's the other one. I can't remember what it was. There is like a Flash.
Ray.
Well, yeah. Then there's the Ray one, which is even more bizarre. But there is a Flash and Green Lantern, or a Flash and Green Arrow movie, but it also has somebody else in it. I can't remember who the hell it is, but.
Oh, I thought that was the Vixen one or the Ray one.
Or maybe that. No, I know it's not the Ray one, but maybe it was. Maybe that was they were in it. For some reason, I didn't think they were in it. I thought Vixen was just straight up Vixen. But I only watched that one once.
It was like Vixen featuring CW's Flash and Arrow.
Oh, that's right. I guess that's exactly how it was sold. I mean, it's still good, but yeah, one of those ones where it's just like, it just seems like that was the weird way. You think you would do it the other way around, and you'd introduce these other characters into it, but not saying that it's not cool just to have random ass characters in there too. But yeah, like anything, I'm always looking forward to whatever DCU one comes by, because I feel like DCU movies are one of the ones like really like at the end of the day, like the worst DCU movie still isn't too bad. You know, there might be mostly like the ones that I always feel like the ones that are kind of off are the ones that are just kind of goofy. And I always refer to like Batman Ninja, like that's my go-to goofy. It's not god awful because it's interesting because of how goofy it is, but it's still like should be like amazing. I felt like that one should have been just like, oh, this is gonna be the coolest thing ever. It's Batman Ninja. Well, you don't need to tell me anymore. Batman goes to Japan. That's all I need to know.
I don't want to sound. I don't want to sound like just like a dirty like just like kind of like a hey man, I bet it's good if you watch it. Hi man, I don't want to sound like that, but I bet if you did watch that thing like on Sativa or something, you would be like, yeah,
where
I
all the
think
chimps are like combining together to turn to like the chimp robot.
Yeah, not even a chimp. That was the thing. I'm guessing that has to be something from Japanese lore or something, because it's like, okay, there's a like Robin, like it's like monkey chin, like pulls out like a flute, like you know, and then all of a sudden like, they all like jump into a pile, and they don't like create like some badass like, you know, like monkey from like I know it's a Chinese fable, but from like, you know, Journey to the West. This is all badass. It looks like a fucking keychain you'd buy in Japantown. It's just like this big gold or like a kid robot Funko or something of like, you know, this big like goofy golden monkey, and then just like, what the this is a fucking Batman thing. Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like it's one of those movies. Like I've only watched that one once, but it would be interesting to kind of knowing exactly what that thing is to go in it next time. But it feels like that's almost what it is. Like it's definitely needs to be. I don't know. It's such a bizarre one because it's almost like it's like they're like generally it's like, okay, we got that anime thing here, so it's like, okay, like we're gonna try to sell this to Westerners, so let's kind of smooth it out. And like no, they like double down on all the weird stuff that would generally turn off somebody who's not into anime.
Yeah, well, it's also like, I mean, it's also like, hey guys, the Americans are watching. Let's really animate it up. Let's try and get them into it. Like, no. A lot of people that watch this thing already like anime. You don't gotta go like that. Okay, you're doing it. All right.
I guess we can't stop you, but
well, because I want to say, I don't remember who, but I want to say some really notable anime directors are involved with that. That's why I was so like, oh, really, dude? You were involved with this? Shit, you're better than that. Come on. I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody.
I can't remember too, but it was like one of those ones, like if you looked at like their resume, it was like, oh yeah, that's a cool lineup there. I was trying to find out where the hell that one is. That one's like, sometimes some of those ones get kind of hidden from like the normal list of stuff.
Yeah, it was like
they're like, we even know to kind of like put this in its own like category, I guess.
Yeah, we're not trying to really bring that one up so much. I mean, it's there if you want it, but you know, it's Yeah, let's see. We're already talking. Let me just pull up this director. This is Batman Ninja. He did Mega Man. Okay. He's one of the guys on Star Wars Visions. Director. Well, maybe there's somebody involved with this. I don't know. Or director of Zoo. Okay, well, I don't know. There's somebody else involved in this that actually was involved in some like cool shit. I don't remember what, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I got where the heck that one is.
That's someone from Afro Samurai or something was involved.
Yeah, I almost want to say that. Well, I mean, and then the only thing that also kind of like is because it uses that CG cell shaded look, which always just feels kind of like you half-assed it. Like you could have drawn this, but you decided not to.
I know we're actually talking about Batman in DC, but I'll say this real quick. I saw one episode of it because I haven't subscribed to Crunchyroll yet, but I saw one free episode of it. That new Trigun show actually looks really good, and they do the whole.
I heard about that.
They do the whole cell shade anime thing, but it's a lot more fluid and they're way more expressive. Because whenever I see like one on Netflix, it always looks like someone's like first try in Blender or something, and this one. It's very fluid animation. You could tell that's it, but it looks good though, and like their expressions are really good too, which goes a long way, Well,
it's like there was a new Lupin movie that just came out that I was watching, and it has that cell shaded. It looks better than
because at first Lupin from a few years
ago. It literally just came out like in like the last month or something. It's like Lupin and like the Cat's Eye Burglar or something like that. It's on Amazon. But it has that CG look in it, and I'll say like at first glance you would almost think it is drawn until you see when the camera starts rotating. That's always that tells you right off the bat that it's nobody's hand drawing that. But it's one of those ones where it's not bad, but it still has that uncanny feel to it, like something like that thing that like the average person would probably go, "There's something off. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but there." But I think that's sort of like. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not saying that like, I'll watch a movie even if it is like that. I prefer somebody to be hand drawn it like, like God intended. But, if you want to use your computer and your AI and all that stuff, well, it's not the same as, a couple of boys, in a basement on like a Windows 95.
No, it's one of those things like, well, I think some shows can pull it off. From what I saw, it's a lot of times it's the movement. Once you actually freeze frame it, that's where, like, if you freeze frame it, that looks good. Because I remember there's a couple of like Netflix animes that got me. I'm like, oh, this looks really good. And they actually see a move, like, oh, it's this shit. They just have that real like robotic kind of walk to them. And maybe when they go into an action scene, it's cool because they can just let loose. But
yeah,
it's like that's. But at the exact same time, it's like it's a give and take kind of thing. Or
it's a weird thing. It's the frame issues also. Like I think what does it is because and I remember just learning this like when we were doing the Drunk Batman episodes or something like that. Like if it didn't like kind of do like old school skipping frames in a sense, and you just like move something in like the 3D environment, it always looked weird. It looked uncanny. Like it just looked off, like because it was almost like it made it too smooth. And I feel like that's how so many of those things kind of are, is that like, that's why like I feel like Into the Spider-Verse actually kind of works a little bit better, is even though it's CG, but because they do the skip frames, it gives it like almost a more blended look between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
but yeah, Batman
down the line, but
yeah, Batman Doomed It Comes to Gotham. I think it's definitely worth checking out. I think it's one of those ones, like I still enjoyed it overall, maybe because I'm just generally I don't see as much Lovecraft stuff. I literally have the whole collection of his because you can buy it for like 99 cents on Kindle. And I felt like one of these days I should sit down and just see what this Lovecraft boy is all about, so I haven't got around to it. I put the dollar down. I had the good intentions.
Well, it's also one of those things, like so many things, ape him, that you've kind of seen it by this point, plus it's written really old-fashioned kind of writing style, but I haven't read everything by him. I read a few things, but regardless, it's like one of those things, like, I didn't love the movie, but I'm glad I saw it. At the same time, I would like to see another stab at Batman, cosmic horror, Lovecraft. I like to just see that again. But, I just, I enjoyed it. I just wasn't really blown away.
Yeah, as I said, like it makes me still kind of want to check out the comic book and kind of go from there and so on. And I'm just kind of glad to have it. I will say I'm glad that they just are throwing out some random ass kind of like stories too. You know, they don't have to be the continuity DCU movies, or they don't have. It literally doesn't tie into anything. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's even tying into like a movie coming out or anything like that. I'm kind of that almost in itself is like I think that's kind of nice when they just pull here's an old comic book or here's an old graphic novel. Let's just go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, I think that's a good place to leave off at.
But beyond all that good stuff, go to oldmanorange.com where you'll find comic books like Pizza Boys, more podcasts, old animations, and all that other kind of fun stuff. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.